What I will, DJ Mag, what coming in with hopefully another banger. I don't usually like to do ban prediction videos, but you know, a lot of people have been asking about my thoughts on what could potentially be banned from August the 23rd and obviously in effect in September. So I'm here to give you my view, my take of what I personally think should be restricted and banned when we get the list. So if this is a video for you, then stick around and enjoy. And if you're new to the channel like what you see, make sure to subscribe and turn the notification bell because I do videos on the reg. So let's just dive into the nitty gritty here. Obviously you can see, you know, the Guilmon rush engine, as everyone likes to see, and it has been placing fairly high in a number of tournaments right here. So this definitely, you know, leads us to predict that, you know, one of these cards are kind of going to be hit here. And a lot of people have been speculating about Growlmon X, a lot of people have been speculating about the Guilmon Rush, and then also then we got the Graph Crush. So from my perspective, I've probably not really faced this deck as much as I would like to, but I have evidence what this deck is capable of. And it definitely seems like quite a, you know, the key enabler of, you know, the strat is making sure that if you're gonna pop off, you get the job done. I'm talking like curtains, my boy, close them, because the opponent is walking out with a sad face. And the key facilitator of that is definitely going to be, in my personal view, when this card drops, you might as well say I'm dead. Like, honestly, as soon as the opponent flashes out the Graph Crushers, I'm like, I'm done. Because when you're actively using this card, there's not going to be a next turn for you to lose 2 memory, especially if they've used 2 of these out. So let's read the card. Main, gain 2 memory. End of turn, lose 2 memory. If there's no end of turn, that don't matter. So you're literally printing memory in order for you to further extend and pop off. You got to remember as well that the actual inheritables of your stack are going to be gaining you memory. So you've got enough memory for you to climb up another stack, have rush, and absolutely go for face once again, because you're doing quite a hefty amount of checks when you go into your Digimon right there. So the thing that everyone has been saying is that these zero cost options are just too abusable. They are ridiculously abusable, and this one in particular, I just feel like if the opponent's throwing this out, I'm dead. Jack Raid, depending on how many Jack Raids they're throwing out, usually you get a bit of an indicator. If they're throwing out 1 Jack Raid, I'm like, okay, I might be still in the game a little bit, depending on my security. But if they're throwing like 3 to 4 Jack Raids, I'm like, I'm cooked. I am done, especially depending on their trash totals. The intent there is to finish up, because if they've used more than 2, they're giving you 4 memory on the past turn, and that rarely, if ever, happens. So in all honesty, I think these zero cost options either need to be outright banned or restricted to 1, and I think Graph Crush definitely needs to be restricted to 1 right there. So let's go over to the Growlmon X Antibody, because I like this card outside of Digimon. And the thing that irks me a little bit when it comes to Bandai and the design of these cards is like, they design these cards with intent. No, there's no accidents here, guys. Like, let's stop being like naive. There is intent in terms of the application of how these cards are used, and they definitely wanted to use it in this combination. So this is why I feel like if Graph Crush was to kind of go, then would this be fine leaving at 4? A lot of people might say, hell no, Dread, like, sack it off, curtains, we want this guy gone. But the thing is that when you are using Graph Crush, you're winning. Like, you are closing out game in that sense. Though this card gives you a lot of advantage in regards to what it is doing. I mean, when Digivolving, you're able to draw 1 trash 1, which is huge. And then if you've either on top of a Growlmon or X Antibody in the stack, which in a Megiddo list, you're gonna, you know, we don't even run X Antibody in there, so most likely you're gonna be either on top of your Growlmon. Then you gain your on deletion, you're able to play 1 card with Guilmon in name from your trash without paying the cost. The fact that 1 is in names even, you know, pretty cracked. Obviously, your Guilmon X Antibody and all that jazz. But the main facilitator here is getting your Rush Guilmon out, and if you have 20 more cards in trash collectively, then that's just another body going out, and plus you gain the memory. This sets up a lot of combo plays right there, and 9 times out of 10, you are just literally going to be chipping down and winning game outright just off this card alone. Even when you are climbing up the stack there too, you are going to be gaining the memory off the inheritable there as well. So it is definitely a facilitator in terms of the combo. It would be unfortunate to see this card going down to 1, because I feel like Guilmon really likes this card in regards to the inheritables, but I think we could survive without it, because we do have a Growlmon that actually pretty much has this same inheritable right there, which we do get from the starter deck. So it wouldn't be bad if it did get dropped to 1, but it would be unfortunate that it got dropped to 1 because of, let's face it, slightly bad poor design from Bandai. But it is what it is. Then we go to Rush Guilmon. So Rush Guilmon, like I say, if this got restricted to 1, it kind of falls in the same, well, not necessarily the same premise of EX2 Impmon, because, you know, when that got restricted to 1, it is kind of a bit of a high roll, and there's a lot of ways to recycle it. I think with this, it still has a lot of ways to recycle it, and I feel like you get a lot more mileage out of this versus the EX2 Impmon that is now restricted to 1. 9 times out of 10, we don't necessarily recycle that Digimon to effectively use it to filter out our trash even further. Definitely correct me if I'm wrong, I'm a bit rusty on my BLs and on plays, but 9 times out of 10, I'm not necessarily picking that card to further trash and set up, whereas I will be filtering out my trash to dig this card out and abuse it where necessary, because realistically, depending on how my actual stack is going, you could literally loop this if you do happen to evo into manage to basically play this out, evo up to Growlmon, then Growlmon X again, swing because you've got the rush, that dies, do the loop again because then you just play this out from your trash. It's kind of like that realistically, where even restricting this to 1, I don't think necessarily will make much of a difference. It would slow it down, but the deck trashes a fair bit of cards from your deck. So yeah, unfortunately, you know, this card is pretty cracked once it gets set up in this type of list. But once again, Bandai had this design in place to do that very thing. being the thing. But if it got restricted to 1, I could see why it got restricted to 1, but I feel like in combination with designing these cards, there was that kind of intent to do that. Nothing to me is a sheer accident, but when the card games develop, there's a lot more chances for broken combos to happen, and I feel like the Graph Crush is definitely a target to just basically restrict to 1. I think that would slow the deck a fair bit without necessarily killing the deck. The thing for me personally, I don't like when decks are just outright killed, like, because they've had a lot of meta relevance in that sense, because a lot of people invest in those decks who may just be enjoying it as a fan favorite, or might be because that they are meta, but without an actual like plan to, you know, revitalize the deck, it's just like, oh wow, you've just absolutely killed my deck that I've spent loads on, and there it is, that we're cooked. But I understand that you have to sell products, so it is what it is. But going over to like the zero cost options here, if we're going to ban Graph Crush, I think these parabolic junk and Tropical Venom just need hitting now. Just get rid of them now. Like, granted, they're not necessarily being meta relevant currently and not really necessarily doing much, but the combo potential is there. So just get it, just take it out back like old yell and get it out of the way. Just cook them. That's just get it all done now. Don't slow drip it. I feel like you've learned from hitting Blinding Ray and so forth. If you hit Graph Crush, yeah, just there's a trend. There's a trend. Follow the freaking insights. That's all you need to do, Bandai. So get those sacked off. The fact that parabolic junk actually has a freaking security effect that you can add it to hand is even more nuts. Being the thing with oh my god, forgot the name. Digimon, there we go. With that now becoming a bit more relevant, I can see there might be ways that they could abuse this. Does it need it? Probably doesn't. But there's an opportunity for that to happen, or any other black decks that could effectively abuse this. It is all about the abusing in order for a restriction / ban list to even happen. So, let's get on to Sakuyamon. Sakuyamon's an interesting one. Me personally, I've actually faced Sakuyamon a fair few times, and I'm not gonna lie, watching the opponent pop off, set up, clap my cheeks, blow my back out is unbelievable. It is actually really unbelievable how efficient this deck gets going, and you're left in a bit of a predicament where either you're going to be completely blitzed, completely locked out, or you actually have a bit of a fighting chance, but you don't want to then obliterate their board for them to just scramble and then for them to just do that shit all over again. It's just like, it can be kind of awkward. But the thing that Bandai just had to do from the jump was eliminate the use of generic yellow cards in part of its own thing. That's all they had to do. That's all they had to do. Plugins is great, but 9 times out of 10, Taomon is the only one who's going to be using a plugin, or Sakuyamon, let's just say. The EX2 cast could use a plugin if they want to, and rightfully so. It's part of their freaking, you know, the whole series in that sense. I wouldn't be shocked if they happen to use a plugin here and there. But the fact that Taomon can use yellow options is where the whole archetype breaks a little bit and where the frustration happens. And I understand from a card design standpoint and overall like IP standpoint, like Digimon branches off. Digimon have the flexibility to branch off into different Digimon and so forth. And obviously we get that with the color requirements and whatever. But the issue is that because the cards now are so overtuned into a specific color and their payoff isn't necessarily locked behind something or a condition, that's where it breaks. in my personal opinion, that's where it breaks. And the issue with Sakuyamon is Sakuyamon has 2 powerful top ends that it can effectively go into and blow you back in. Volderarm, Rune Mode. And then whatever freaking Bandai prints further on down the line, they've got to be super vigilant in terms of how that effect is tied to. The Volderarm, personal take, I feel like Volderarm, realistically, its effect should be, I've done level sort, the effect should have been tied to the DNA Digirov. Like, realistically, the effect just needed to be tied to a DNA Digirov. That's all it had to be. Like, the fact that it can stop your on plays, keep you suspended, or can't unsuspend until the end of the opponent's turn is freaking nuts. Absolutely nuts. And the fact that Sakuyamon can just abuse this and get into this very cheap unsuspend, swing again, security attack plus 1 there as well. It's heavy damage, and your security doesn't matter. You could be running a very heavy Tamer based deck, don't matter. You ain't getting no one plays on those whatsoever. You thought you had a glimmer of hope? No. no. Take that to the door. It's completely out. And that's the issue that we have. Obviously, we have this Taomon here, which seems like the most likely, easiest hit based on other people's views. And I understand it, because I feel like if we restrict this, then yeah, they have to use the Taomon Ace. At least Taomon Ace has a bit of a freaking, you know, a bit of a punishment in regards to the overflow if you manage to out it. And I'm happy with that. Just having that bit of overflow is quite nice. Means I've not got just this massive pop off without any form of punishment. As well, like, this really just had to read, and I suppose it doesn't necessarily matter, but I think from a design perspective, it didn't have to be a yellow freaking option. Well, a yellow option. A plugin, fine. You know, that's keeps within archetype. We get it. We know what Bandai's trying to cook here. And this doesn't necessarily stop the interaction between using a freaking green plugin, let's just say. But it does limit the use of them using a yellow option, which they could just use Scramble. They could just use freaking yellow memory boost, and it reduces it by 2, which scrambles them for free. Boost is costing you 1. They have an inevitable, which is most likely going to get them a memory, so that's effectively free. And having those cards set up whilst they've established board and done massive damage makes it very problematic for an opponent to kind of come back at that. They could literally just outright rune mode you, and you cannot even interact with that board whatsoever, which is very unfortunate right there. And then the inevitable is that when you use a yellow option or a plugin, you're able to reduce the cost by 2 anyway. So it's just like, this doesn't feel like there's much punishment with this card right here. So putting this to 1 would be okay, because we've got an advanced starter deck coming soon, which we're gonna have another Taomon, and I hope to God that they print that Taomon correctly. I really, really do. They need to keep in one lane, plugins or yellow options. You can't have both. Like, you can't have both. Speaking of plugins, so we've got the green plugin. This right here, I don't really necessarily like to ban, or not ban, let's say restrict to 1 with this one. Plugins, because it's a plugin, it's part of the strat, it's part of the overall archetype identity of what they were doing. But I think now it's probably too overtuned to where the game is going, being the thing. I think initially when it first started out, yeah, it made complete sense, you know. But at this moment in time, the way the game is going, there might as well even not be a memory gauge at this point. like a memory gauge means nothing in this game anymore. Because the amount of times you can just pop off on 1, it's just like, do I even have a resource system? No, there's a bag of rules, and we're just out here just breaking them all. So green plugin right here is pretty much an additional target for scramble. If anything, if you're running a plethora of scramble and this, it just means that you've got more hits to cheat into your level 6 and to further pop off, being the main thing. If they just restrict this to 1, yeah, it'd be nice. Would it stop it? No, because they just lean more to scramble, and scramble is probably a bit more of a payoff, because at least with scramble you're going to use that, and then if you have no Digimon on field, you're just going to play a freaking Renamon from trash, being the thing. So yeah, it's a bit of a tough one with this. I don't want them to hit scramble, in all honesty, because I feel like that's not fair for any other yellow deck being the thing, and I feel like they shouldn't hit that card for poor game design being the thing. But if they have to, they have to. But do I agree with it? No, they just need to be better at designing cards as a global kind of look of it. So yeah, there we go with Taomon and Digivolution plugin. So let's go over to Royal Knights. Royal Knights is a weird one, because the issue that I have with Royal Knights is I feel like Royal Knights is always going to be a strong deck because it's based around Royal Knights. Royal Knights are all level 6. Obviously we have the level 4, which is the Magnamon, which is like a pseudo level 6, and they're always going to be strong, or they're going to be a key candidate for being a secret rare in a set, which this is. Royal Knights are just gonna have just a boon in general. Any form of Royal Knight printing, the deck automatically gets a boon in terms of its playability, which is nice. And once again, I presume that this is the direction that Bandai was going with this deck. It's not like it's unique to its own archetype. It is just going based on the freaking attribute, which is just Royal Knight. So there is 2 cards which potentially could be restricted to 1. We do have Royal Knights the Purge, which I think obviously at the time of when this deck got released in BT13, this card was a requirement, because the overall game plan was a matter of getting the Omnimon BT13 out in order to play your Royal Knights. It was, the Avengers Assemble. You don't need that anymore. You've got Omnimon X just chilling out of the back, just literally just goes cleave, cleave, weave, cleave. Like, honestly, boy just takes everyone out, and the rest of the gang are just like, yo, just let boy here just do the work, and we just take the glory. So I feel like now that overall strat rarely freaking happens. It rarely happens, and when it does, I feel like, oh, it's nostalgia. This is how I should be getting clapped. But this is where this card was pretty relevant in regards to kind of enabling that. And the fact that this card actually enables you to play a freaking Growlmon from underneath your Yggdrasil out without paying the cost, and it doesn't get its own plays, which isn't bad because naturally they would have freaking when attacking effects, and they gave rush, so you're getting that when attacking effect. So it's not necessarily much of a punishment here in regards to just proccing its delay when you need to proc it in that sense, and also it helps with setup. You are going to be playing this for a reduced cost as well, because depending on how many Yggdrasils you have in your breeding, this obviously reduces it down there as well. And then if it's procced from security, it is going to be played into the battle area. So there's a potential that this could be restricted to 1. Will it actually hurt the deck? I don't think it would. Then we have the Last Guardian. So the Last Guardian BT20 card, which is, I mean, it's a consistency booster. But the annoying thing is if you have, when any of your Omnimons in their name would leave the battle area, delay, one of those Digimon doesn't leave. So initially, like, look, even just reading this, the whole change in the deck happens right there. Like, they're wanting you to have Omnimon X Antibody out pretty much majority of all times. I want you to use said card because why not? It's freaking cracked. Compared to before, you had to kind of build up to get to that point, and then if you've actually played out your Omnimon, 9 times out of 10 you're going for game. You're wrapping up. So this card is really freaking annoying because when it sets up and they have an Omnimon out, which Omnimon X Antibody is a monster of a card. Like, when it touches the field, it's like, frick's sake. If it has a Mechamon underneath, oh my god, it's literally just board wipe, go into dual mode, and then clap that because it's got raid. And yeah, happy days. And it can swing without unsuspending. So it is a menace to actually get rid of normally. But if you have this out, yeah, just start it off and it can't be removed. And it is just literally when it would leave. So, you know, it's not a matter of bounce when it would leave, delete when it would leave. You know, it's very hard to kind of get around this. Then on top of that, if this is propped on freaking security, oh my god, this rage inducing to say the least. Because you may play one of Megamon or Cool Boy from your hand or trash without paying the cost, then place this card in the battle area, which is even fucking worse because you're gonna play the Megamon from wherever, and then if you have the Omni X, you're gonna get the Megamons on play, depending on what turn it is, able to evo into your Megamon. Actually, it doesn't even matter if it's your whoever's turn. It's an on-play interaction. Shazam. But obviously, if you've got the egg stops you from evoing on your turn. So effectively, if this pops off on the opponent's turn, you cut. You are freaking cut. And it is annoying because it can be a matter of you winning game and you absolutely getting clapped and you got nothing to kind of come back with right there. So Last Guardian could potentially be on the block right there. I don't think it needs to hit a Mechamon. Like, the reason why I don't think they'll hit a Mechamon, because a Mechamon's part of Liberator and it's Cool Boy's main Digimon. Let's hit that because it's I just don't think it'll do much. I don't think it'll necessarily do much. I don't want to necessarily remove the identity of what a Mechamon and Omnimon's interaction is. It's a whole part of that. But I do think that Growlmon X is a tough one, more due to its overall archetype itself being focused around Growlmon Digimon, who are ultimately really strong because they are most of the main Digimon's level 6 Digimon being the thing. Lastly, we go to Sayo and Koh. Do I really need to explain this? I just think Bandai just needs to outright ban this card, just outright ban it. The reason being is that I think it just ruins game design. There's a lot of ways that it literally goes around the memory gauge. The memory gauge is just well, it's not even null and void in this one. It actually abuses it, because if you pass turn, play a Digimon out, game memory and so forth, turn skip, all that shenanigans. I just feel like this has been a bit of a nuisance for too long. Let's just curtains. Let's just get rid of it, and prevent all other future cases where we could get a potential loop right there. Granted, you know, some loops are very hard to kind of come around, but if this isn't hit, an outright banned, I just think like you're always gonna be worried about a potential loop happening in that sense. Once again, this could have been absolutely resolved if they just designed better, being the thing. And I'm sorry to be brutal about that. Sometimes, like, you've locked in recently you're getting better, but some of these cards were shocking, to say the least. You only have to play like a few games to be like, damn, actually this is broken right there. So, recap. One, I'm thinking in regards to what should be full out banned and what should be restricted to one. Restricted to one, if they have to, if this does come up on the list, restrict to one, so be it. I don't think it'll fully neuter the deck. I think people will still be able to have fun with the deck, but it'll just be a lot harder to achieve. But when you have it, it's going to be a lot, you're pretty much doing what you did anyway. It's a matter of you've just got it, which actually might tilt more people, because it's like, great, actually I've been absolutely clapped by the one-off being the thing. Growlmon X Antibody, if they had to hit it, it's got to be at 1. I don't think an outright ban is definitely not deserved. I'd be sad for this to actually be hit, because like I say, I am an enjoyer of just normal Guilmon, and Guilmon likes this card. But for the sake of the community and the sanity of a lot of people and the game health, if it has to go to 1, it has to go to 1. Taomon, let's put it to 1. I think Taomon's a very tricky one to hit. In all honesty, I don't think it's necessarily particular cards that enable a lot of things for Sakuyamon. I just think that the overall archetype itself could be designed better, and I think it'll always have this struggle. So I'm hoping that the starter deck, well, the advanced starter deck, will help fix what Bandai should have done initially. It's going to be a take two. Be interested to read the cards and see what they've done change wise, and seeing if they do go solely on plugins, or if they're going to do options, make the options surround Sakuyamon being the thing. That's my take on that. But 1. Then we just go flow to plugin. If this was going to be hit 1, I think 1's fair right there. There's ways to search it out pretty consistently. But once again, at the moment, until they fix the overall archetype, we'll just boost it up to scrambles. And I don't want scrambles to be hit, in all honesty, due to poor design. These parabolic junk, wow, just outright ban them. Like, I feel like all the zero cost ones, just ban them. Like, seriously, like, they're just done. They're just way overtuned. Or not, I wouldn't say overtuned. I just think, like, when they was originally designed in the landscape that there was in, it was okay. Now I just don't think they're okay. I just don't think they're okay. That obviously applies to Graph Crush as well. I think Graph Crush, like Graph Crush, Blinding Raid, so forth, Jack Raid, whatever, I think just sack them off. Just get rid of them. Like, realistically, nothing's worse than just being sacked by a one of fucking Graph Crush or Jack Raid. Raw Knights, like 1 and 1. Or 1. I wouldn't want them both to be hit. I feel like that's way OTT. Still gonna hit 1, then hit 1. I don't know if hitting this would actually do that much, in all honesty. Let me know in the comments. Last Guardian, I don't necessarily want them to hit this, because I think the card, the main effect is nice. I think like having a way to search is good for the deck. But once again, I don't think it's necessarily, like, this card's probably a little bit overtuned for what it does. I think the security effect is pretty crap. I think if this wasn't on play or play 1, I think it might have been alright. I think it's a matter of like, you can return one of these to your hand and then place it in the battle area. Would be okay, but the fact you're playing it is, that's where the annoying bit comes in, especially the interaction with Growlmon. And then just out, just ban it, just stop hanging on there, Bandai. Like, it's done. Just print another freaking Sayo Koh that's actually with an archetype. That's all you had to do the first time. But guys, I think that's it. I don't think I want anything else. When someone put freaking promo Sakuyamon on this, I was like, what's Puppets done? Because I put them no numbers out. Come on. But yeah, I'm done. This is kind of my take here. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. There's been other things that I've seen, like Purple Hybrid. I'm like, leave it alone. Like, Purple Hybrid is, like, I don't feel like Purple Hybrid personally should be touched even further, because people have figured a way to make the deck work past the ban list. Let them cook. There might be some people who actually enjoy playing the deck and having to figure out a way to make it decent and achieve its game plan still is banging. Like, I don't think that should be further hit more, in my personal opinion. And I think that's what it is. It's like, if this gets hit, how do we then make another list which could make it work post ban list? But that's me done now. Rant over. If you enjoyed my takes, smash it with a like as standard. Stay safe, stay fly, and I'll catch you next one. Let's do dread off the mic.